Mental
I'll take a
Health
smoke of the pot.
Monday. Cheers to you. You got any coffee or something over there? Oh, looks like a tea.
I made some tea this morning. I'm gonna take a little smoke of the pot though before we get rolling.
I think that's a real good idea because I think that's what I'm going to do right now. Oh, my.
Ooh, lovely.
That's good. I haven't. I don't smoke every day. Like, last time I had a smoke was on Saturday. So,
Okay.
just like everything, I like getting away from stuff once in a while. Like, even my pain pills. No matter even if I get pain and shit, sometimes you just got to feel the pain. You have to.
It can be good to take breaks from like just about anything.
Right?
Except for breathing. Don't take breaks from breathing. Not for long.
I never tried that one. I think I'll stay away from that one.
Yeah. There are some interesting like breath hold techniques that are like part of breath work where people hold their breath for like up to a couple of minutes maybe.
What?
It's interesting. Yeah. Well, so like they don't just go into it just like, oh, I'm gonna sit down from a breath work, deep breath, and like hold it for that long. There's like rhythmic kind of breath work to do to circulate and
Yes.
oxygenate the blood beforehand
To
so
get
that your
there.
body can withstand like a breath hold for that long.
Yeah, right. Because I
It's pretty
imagine
cool.
it takes a bit of
Yeah.
teaching, right?
It takes some practice for sure.
I suppose.
I've definitely tried and been like, I can't hold it that long, but I see how I
Yeah.
can hold it much longer than, it would have before.
Yeah, or what you think you possibly could, right?
Right. And that's a big part of it. So like even without any prior practice, doing the like oxygenating of the blood in like that kind of rhythmic breath. I'm it's been a while. I can't recall it. I can't like do a demonstration or anything, but doing that beforehand and then trying the breath hold, like it's kind of incredible. I was amazed at how long I could hold my breath. I was like,
So-
oh wow.
Do you find it goes like with a meditation kind of a thing, or is it just something
It is
you
a
were trying
meditative type of
separately?
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like myself, I think meditating is one of those things for me. I think I do it in a different way than other people, maybe.
So there's a lot of different ways to meditate, and I think
Right.
that's yeah, it's kind of like a really common sort of like misunderstanding. Like meditation doesn't just have to be like sitting with your knees folded and like saying om over and over,
Exactly.
Meditation is really just about either like connecting with your senses or connecting with your your body. So either your internal senses, what's going on inside of you, or your external senses, what you can hear, what you can touch, what you can feel.
Exactly.
And so
Right?
yeah, and so we call like another word for this is like mindfulness, right?
Yeah,
Ever
yeah.
heard of like
Being-
mindful practices? Being present.
yeah.
Right. So
Being-
when we connect with our senses, we're not connecting with the thoughts and the narratives in our head that are saying, hey, what's up? You're such a weirdo. Why are you being so weird right now?
Right?
We're not connecting with the thoughts that are like, oh my God, can somebody see me right now? Is somebody looking? They're going to think
Someone
I'm a
looking at
psycho,
me. What are they
right?
staring at? Are they staring at my
And
forehead?
yeah.
Like.
When we get into that presence, that's the meditation, essentially, is giving ourselves the presence of mind. And if thoughts come in, thoughts come in.
So what's
And we try
your?
to play the I notice game with them, right? So that's
Yeah.
one form, but it can happen when we're outside walking. It can happen when you're gardening and feeling the dirt and the soil in your hands. It can happen when you're, you can take a meditative shower if you would like and just really get into the sudsing and the shampoo.
Ooh, that's true. Or you can get into a nice, real hot shower. That's my favorite one.
Right.
Get into a real hot shower and just let it beat on my back right here.
Let it be that big sensory experience. Yeah.
And you just fall into this beautiful spot. That's my place. For me, what's going
There
on
you
down
go.
and
There's
dirty?
a
How you doing,
meditation.
brother? Yeah.
Oh,
So
what's up, down?
I just wanted to ask a question about that. So,
Yeah.
as far as meditation, do you believe it's focus or unfocus? Or maybe depending on what you need, right?
Focus is kind of, There's a lot of different things that go into focus and attention. I think mostly what it is when we think about meditation or mindfulness, the goal is presence. And so it's not to force the presence, but to notice it. To take a step back, to zoom out a little bit. And
Right.
just to bear witness.
So it is unfocused in a way.
Kind of.
Because then you're
Maybe a different kind of focus?
a different focus, yeah. Because I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I've always had a hard time understanding it. Is like to say, well, yeah, you got unfocused, but no, I don't think it's that. I think there's something in between there, or something that.
If the meditation is focusing on your senses, like if that's the way that you can kind of like understand it, like yeah, then focus on a sensory aspect.
Right? Exactly.
If we're talking about like the heat of the shower and we feel like the water droplets like hitting us down and we feel it trickling down, like tapping into and focusing on that sensory experience is meditative.
Right? Exactly. I love that idea. Because that's the way I always thought of it too, was that,
I guess you can think of it as like refocusing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, maybe you're going,
Like
you're
taking
not,
the camera lens, right? Instead of
Yeah.
like up close at the flower, we're looking at like the whole plant, zooming out a little bit.
yeah. Or maybe you're blurring out the background and looking at only what you really should be looking at and not being,
Just letting whatever comes by comes
Yeah.
by.
exactly. Damn right. That's what it's all about. So, what did you say you would want to talk about today?
Or if anybody in chat has some opinions, please share.
Yes,
but I was
everyone out
thinking,
there is welcome.
the two things that were on my mind today were ADHD and burnout, and
Right.
then also getting into kind of what the 4 different attachment styles are.
Okay.
And so attachment styles have to do with relationships, but also they have a lot to do with how we see ourselves. Yeah. How we see ourselves, how we see others, and how we connect with people.
Right.
That's what the attachment styles are all about. And it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
But I was thinking either that or getting into ADHD, because I know it's something that a lot of us here kind of like struggle with,
A
right?
lot of us do. I
Yeah.
agree too. I think it's just one of them things, and you kind of see it.
And
right?
I think it's I think when it comes to ADHD burnout, we don't talk about it enough,
Right.
But it's pretty real, and it comes with skill regression, and it comes with fatigue and feeling tired all the time. And all of that can lead to a lot of like self-judgment and feeling like we're lazy or feeling like we're doing it wrong or like we're not trying hard enough. And I kind of want to bring, a little bit of a flashlight to that shady corner.
Yeah, I agree. Cool.
It is. You've seen Psych to Go, right? The YouTube channel. They do a lot of videos
Yes,
that are
yes.
kind of
I
quick.
have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're sort of bite-sized, but they
Yeah.
they pack a lot of info in them.
Actually been watching a bit of this stuff here lately. Now, so
Yeah,
that's pretty
I
cool.
like it.
Yeah.
They go over ADHD burnout. I
Yeah.
think it's
I don't think I've seen this
I'm
one
always worn
specifically,
out,
but
unmotivated, and struggling to cope with life's demands. At a first glance, people may mistake the signs of ADHD burnout as someone being lazy. But here's the harsh truth. Laziness may just mean that there's something deeper at play. According to clinical psychologist Carrie Chalemi, ADHD burnout is a condition of physical, emotional, and mental fatigue that is exclusive to those who have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And it's vital that we recognize and tackle it with empathy and understanding. So let's look at the signs of ADHD burnout before we debunk the myth of laziness once and for all. Extreme exhaustion. You look in your planner and realize it is a chaotic mosaic of overlapping meetings, deadlines, and obligations. When you have ADHD, your mind craves constant stimulation and races with a flurry of ideas. The desire to say yes to everything that comes your way causes you to get stuck in a cycle of overcommitment. According to an article published at adhdcenter.co.uk, ADHD causes executive dysfunction, making it hard to initiate, sequence, and organize your tasks. As a result, you tend to underestimate the time and effort something will take, which leads you to overcommit by mistake. When you take on too many tasks and commitments, eventually you will experience extreme exhaustion. paralyzed. Consider a situation in which you desperately need to do something, anything really, but you're simply overwhelmed by your surroundings and become frozen in place. Despite the importance of multiple tasks demanding your attention, somehow you can't seem to get started on even one of them. Licensed clinical social worker Shengli Yang explains that people with ADHD may feel completely paralyzed by their seeming incapacity to take action, even though they want to. When you have too much on your plate, you feel overwhelmed, and as a result, you experience paralysis in several areas of functioning. You may get mental paralysis, where you have a flurry of thoughts and emotions in your mind, causing you to find it difficult to talk and express your thoughts. You can also experience task paralysis, where you procrastinate and avoid doing the things you need to do because of your long to-do list. And to top it off, you may be paralyzed by too many choices and the daunting task of making a crucial decision. Foggy. Have you ever felt like a fog is blanketing your brain? You have a slower reaction time in processing your thoughts, and finding appropriate phrases to communicate what you wish to convey is more challenging. Clinical psychologist Kendra Kabala shares that brain fog is common for people experiencing ADHD burnout. Staying focused, being organized, and remembering all the small details becomes the hardest thing to do. It's not due to laziness, but it is due to the way your brain is wired. Motivated no more. Clinical psychologist Ellen Littman explains that in ADHD, dopamine, a neurotransmitter involved in motivation and reward processing, is frequently dysregulated. It's difficult to take pleasure in ordinary activities when the reward system of the ADHD brain is underactive. In dopamine-deficient brains, high stimulation behaviors trigger a release of dopamine, resulting in a surge of motivation. After that surge and reward, their motivation instantly declines as they return to baseline levels. When ADHDers endure burnout and chronic stress, their dopamine levels might drop even more, making it more difficult to feel pleasure or motivation. Productivity killers. Do you find it harder and harder to stay focused long enough to complete a task? It can feel defeating and frustrating when you can't create the kind of work you anticipate for yourself. According to researcher Lara Tucha and colleagues, ADHDers have difficulty keeping continuous focus for long, uninterrupted intervals of time. When they have burnout, this problem in focusing is amplified and can make it more difficult for them to be productive and complete their tasks. There's always so much more than what meets the eye. Burnout, particularly in a case of ADHD, is a silent battle that is sometimes overlooked. However, equipped with the knowledge of its different signs, you now have a great tool for recognizing your own experiences or those of your loved ones. The key to finding motivation and leading a fulfilling life is to care for yourself. Seek professional guidance and implement strategies to manage ADHD burnout.
Ollie Domo, hey yo,
Yeah, how
welcome
you
on
doing,
in.
Domo? Oh, it's
Hello,
Matt.
hello.
Twisted, how you doing, bud? I needed
Oh,
this
what's up,
today,
Twisted?
thanks, Twisty. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're doing this for everyone else out there, too.
Yeah.
We all have bad days, and we have a lot of tools here we could use. There's a lot of stuff I learned right out of that about
You
myself.
experience that like mental
because
fog.
I've always
It's
been
real,
like
huh?
this. And if something doesn't work for me in that, and I mean, I can't be doing the same thing all the time. I won't finish
Yeah.
anything. I can't finish anything. I have to
We
do it,
need,
go to
like,
something
yeah,
else, do
we
it.
need stimulation. We need novelty.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
I'm always jumping around wanting, and so, when I get a job, if I have a job that can let me do those things, then,
Yeah.
it's perfect. If I'm
You gotta be able to
completely-
like do some new things and tackle new like challenges. Like
Yeah.
that's what ADHD brains like crave is
Mm-hmm.
novelty. So like the three main things that like motivate us is novelty, urgency, and instant gratification. So like those are the three like biggest motivators
Okay.
for ADHD brains. And so, yeah, if it's not instant gratification, like work, say that you're going to get a paycheck for at the end of the month, right? Like, so we got to think, all right, so is it going to be novelty or is it going to be, what's the
yeah.
other one?
Yeah. I know what you mean, because it's
Already lost my mind, but yeah.
it's that same thing where they give the kid a cupcake. You eat this one cupcake,
Right.
fine. But if you wait, you'll get
We'll
3
give you 2.
cupcakes.
Yeah. And
But you
it's like,
gotta
depending
wait.
on how long you leave the kid there, some of them had like some strong ability to delay the gratification, and others were just like, I gotta have the
Oh
cupcake
yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly. They don't care,
Yeah.
you know. They feel the remorse for it later, but
Right.
you know, no problem, Twisty. Good to see you, bud. Gotta let it out, brother. That's what it's all about, Twisty. If you have any questions or anything like that too, or anything you'd like to say, don't be shy to talk about it in here. That's what we're doing, my friends. Yeah, that's
So I
just.
said I got through the day asking myself if I'm doing enough or not enough. Can I share my opinion?
Yeah, you should.
I would hazard a guess that you are doing plenty. And I think when we start getting these ideas of self-doubt and feeling like we're not doing enough, I think instead of measuring how much you're doing, I think it might be more beneficial to maybe check in with what you're spending your energy on and whether or not it's giving you the benefits that you want from putting your energy in.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, I feel like
You're
that.
already trying hard enough, but if you're trying the wrong things or dumping your energy into energy pits, you know, like if you're filling up a bucket that has holes in it, well, that's why it's
Exactly.
empty, you know.
But I think we all ask ourselves that question, though. I mean, I constantly ask myself that question. You know, you got to kind of,
If you're doing enough.
you kind of look over yourself. You know, okay,
I think it's
am I
really
really
easy to
doing
judge
enough?
ourselves and to, you know, assume that we have like a character flaw, right? Like laziness. Like, oh, I'm a lazy person. But it's not true. I don't think it's a character flaw, and I don't think laziness is a real thing that anybody is. I don't think anybody's just born with like a laziness gene, you know?
No, I don't
I
think
think that
so either.
there's some other obstacle in the way, right?
Because everybody likes to do something, right?
There might be some mental overload going on, or there might be some physical exhaustion happening. I don't think anybody is lazy.
No,
I think people have obstacles that are difficult for them to see sometimes.
I keep trying, but the bucket never fills. Twisted says. Well, that's what we just explained there. If there's holes in that bucket,
Yeah, we gotta patch
you
those
know,
holes up, man.
yeah. Either that, or you got to start to be satisfied with what you're doing, right?
Or that.
Depending, you know, it's hard to evaluate yourself in that way.
It
I
can
think,
be. It can be.
right? And that's why we need other people to, you know, give us an idea, and just like that, you know, because sometimes it's not even about really anything other than being a human being, and just we all worry at times, and we all stress out over things, depending on, you know, how
Yeah.
you're getting money into your home, and if you're going to have a home tomorrow, or, you know, whatever, right? There's a lot of stresses in life.
There are plenty of
So,
reasons to worry.
yeah, right? So that's it's a very valid thing, you know. But anyway, Twisted, you know, you don't worry about that stuff, my friend. You don't worry about that stuff. That's, you'll be fine. Just like Bree was saying, you know, you just got to look at yourself. And,
I think you're already trying.
yeah.
I
Well,
think you're already trying hard enough, but
well, yeah.
if the
Look, he's
trying-
opening. He's opened
yeah.
up. Like he took a huge step there by opening up in front of us,
yeah.
right?
I would say, like, to keep up with the bucket metaphor here, if the trying is that you keep trying to run back to the stream to fill up the bucket and running back over to dump it, then maybe put the effort into patching the bucket instead of trying with, you know, the extra
Right.
challenge still there.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
That does. Yep.
Like, patch your bucket up instead of trying to
Yeah.
run faster
Try
back and forth.
Try a different angle,
Yeah.
right? Try a different angle.
Try
like
putting
maybe
your
even try
energy
doing,
somewhere else.
Yeah. Just try doing something a little bit different, change it up, and it's true. Sometimes you can really make some wicked changes in life just doing that.
what was it? Were we talking last time about Atomic Habits?
I think we mentioned
There were like
something about that.
these
yeah.
these small little like habits or changes that can make bigger impact, or can like add up to bigger impact, right? They talk about like the atomic habits that like in the beginning, like you're supposed to pick something so small that it's hardly noticeable that it's difficult, right? Like you aren't supposed to be trying to give up anything real big and just supposed to be like something small, you know? Like drinking a glass of water every morning to get your day off to a, you know, whatever start. And they talk about like, okay, so what can you do now with this added hydration that's part of your day? Or this added ritual that's part of your day. You drink your water and, you know, maybe you add in, oh, well, next to my water glass in the morning, I have like my journal. So maybe I'll do like a 5-minute journal entry while I sip my water and I do that. Or maybe while I drink my water, I have like a 5-minute meditation or something. Or do 5 minutes of breath work, whatever. But like, so these things kind of like build onto each other. And so again, with that, like, you know, now that I have the mental clarity after the breath work and the meditation, along with my water, that was 5 minutes out of my day, now I feel a lot more mentally clear to tackle the task list that's going on. So by the end of the month, now we're seeing some like interesting and perhaps even like not so related to the hydration and the water like effects. Like maybe we're seeing, oh, I feel so much better about like my time management. I feel like I can relax now.
Yeah,
You know?
because you do have time
Does that
to
make
yourself.
sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And how that can
Yeah.
compound on each other, right?
Right. And so that's
Just
the
makes
idea with the
sense.
atomic habits. It's like you start small with something that's like
So small that there's no way
so
it could bother
trivial.
you. Yeah.
So small. Well, like, and the thing is, we got to pick something that's also like small in your life, right? Not just because it's small in somebody else's, but something that's small and easy for you to implement. Like whoever you person are, you know, if drinking a glass of water every day is not the thing that's going to be easy for you, then don't take that example and be like, that example sucks. I'll try something else, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense, you know, because it's some very small steps that count.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you can add just a minute in a day, whatever it is, you know, you start somewhere, but you work your way up from there.
Start somewhere super tiny
Yeah.
and see what happens. But the idea I think is to try to like be consistent with it.
Exactly. Consistency.
Hold yourself accountable
Yes.
to the
Yeah,
consistency.
yeah. If you
Yeah.
if you don't, if you're not consistent with
To make
it,
to make it a habit, right? Like that's
Yeah.
how we make things habits and not just like, hey, I did that once on a Tuesday and it was fine.
right?
Let's go back over like some of the so some of the symptoms were like
That's,
exhaustion,
yeah, that's interesting.
like mental paralysis, which was like task paralysis or choice paralysis sometimes. Talked about mental fog, organization, focus, low motivation. She talked about, I think the most interesting part that I picked up was on the dopamine dysregulation.
So yeah, but because that's what it's considered that's happening right there in
Yeah.
the ADHD
So
brain,
that's
right?
yeah, the chemical stuff that's going on, the neuroactivity. What are some ways like that you experience like burnout symptoms, if you're willing to share?
I don't know. It's so hard for me to tell right now. It's coming out of the whole
Fair.
cancer thing. I don't really know where I am yet. I don't think I'm back to 100%.
Hard to know where like the new
Even-
normal baseline is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I want to
fair.
get better than I am now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go up. I don't want to stay where I am. I want to get better. So, you know, it's just that work trying to get there and you know, get the right doctors to help me along the way. And it's been a struggle, right?
That's fair.
So, I mean, for me, it's mostly that right now. I'm not worried about too much more. I mean, I'm just not going
Yeah.
to do it to myself, you know. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
Give yourself rest when you need it.
Yeah, and I enjoy being here, hanging out. And when we talk like this really helps me a lot. And as you can see, it helps other people, like Twisty or whoever. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we need to talk about these things, and because a lot of it we don't know or we forget.
I think it's helpful to like have the reminders and kind of like reinforcement too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just completely forget about it, like completely. You just dig into yourself and you just blame yourself for things, and you wonder if you're good enough or if you're doing enough. I do that all the time. Twisty, do it all the time. That's a normal thing. Don't think
Well,
we're
that
off by any.
reminds me actually that's a great segue into sort of like the next
Sure.
video if you want to
Yeah.
get into that one.
Damn right.
I don't know. I don't want to just like be the substitute teacher who's like, "Hey class, we're watching a video
No,
today.
no,
Nah,
no,
keep it down.
no.
Don't fall asleep." But
Come on.
I did also, so like attachment styles have a lot to do with how we see other people and how we see ourselves and how we relate to others, like in relationship, what our expectations for relationships are like. And so our attachment style also plays quite a bit of a role in shaping how we view ourselves in terms of like our self-worth,
Yeah.
how we
very
see
true.
ourselves, how we value ourselves.
Yeah. You know that
So-
a lot of people don't think of that, but that's really important how you view yourself.
I agree.
That's a huge.
It's very important. So the way that we view ourselves has a lot to do with like it touches and influences how we behave in relationships in terms of like where we set boundaries with people, what kind of behaviors we are, going to accept in relationship and which kinds we aren't. And I don't just mean relationships like romantic ones, but friendships as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or even
Across
colleague
the board.
relationships. Like
Across the board.
everybody in your life, you have a relationship with them, whether you want to, acknowledge it or not. Like you even have
do.
a relationship with the barista if you go and get coffee from them 3
Yeah.
times a week.
Hell yeah.
Whoever it is, the grocery clerk who, knows your name and says, "Hey," every time, whatever. You have a relationship with all of these people. And so when I say relationship, I mean it in that sort of very open and generic way.
Because you put time into it by
Yeah.
saying hello and creating a little
Well,
chit
because
chat
we
or
recognize
talk,
each
maybe.
other, right?
Right?
We recognize each other. We, have an idea of who the other one is. We might even know each other's names, or maybe we don't.
Right?
That doesn't mean we don't have a relationship still,
True.
right?
True.
And so, like, all of these people who are in our lives, like, that's a relationship. We're making these little bonds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one way I just want to go into that with is like we were saying, we're all here right now. I'm
Yeah.
Creep Factor, you're Bree. That's not even our real name. So just because you don't know someone's name doesn't mean you didn't have a relationship. I mean,
Exactly. Right. And,
Right.
like, we can know each other for, like, the people who we are, right?
exactly. It doesn't have to be about our names or
What's up,
anything
Hazy?
like that.
That is his real name, I think, right?
Yeah.
First name Hazy, last name Face?
No, his first name is Face and his last name's Hazy.
Oh, okay. Middle name underscore.
Nice.
We've talked about attachment many times before, but today I wanted to help you understand how it might be impacting your day-to-day life as an adult. Attachment theory was first introduced by a British psychiatrist, John Bowlby. Basically, the main concept of attachment theory is that the way we bond with our primary caregiver forms the way we attach to people throughout our lives. What's important to note is that attachment theory is founded in the belief that whatever happened in our early relationships is seen in our mind as a rule for future ones. And we go out into the world with this blueprint looking for things that fit it.
Okay, so I don't love the word that it's not exactly a rule necessarily, but it does form like those early views that we have of relationships, the early interactions that we have with likely our caregivers, right? That it does a
Well,
lot
yeah.
to shape how we're going to perceive
Oh yeah.
like interactions
listen.
in the future and how we're going to
That-
relate to people.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So rule seems like a weird kind of phrasing, I think, and maybe that's just me being like really particular about words, but
But you know
Yeah.
how you were brought up, what you witnessed, what you've seen, what
Very,
traumas you
very
might have went through,
influential.
what amazing, beautiful things you might have seen and went through. All of it meshes into who you're going to
whether
be.
it was beautiful experiences, not so beautiful experiences, or a mix in between, like all of it has a lot of influence on
Yeah, I'm right.
our future relationships.
Hell yeah.
Heavy influence. I feel like the word rule is just weird. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Nah, all good.
This is how attachment, bonding, and relationships work. The point of learning about this is so that you can understand and can identify some of your adult relationship patterns, and that's what I want us to dive into today. There are 4 main attachment styles, the result of how we bonded with our primary caregivers. Each one of these experiences shape the way that we, number 1, view ourselves, number 2, view others, and 3, view attachment or connections with others.
Okay, I want to like pause there
Yeah,
also.
that's a great spot to pause right there, actually.
Oh, Neon's here. Says, hey, lovies, been here lurking. Good to see y'all. Good to see you too, my dear.
Yes.
So lovely to
How
see you.
doing? Good to see you, Neon.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're well.
Oh.
Thank you for the lurk.
I hope
Yeah.
I get to catch up with you soon. But yeah, so the attachment styles, she says, so the way we view ourselves, others, and connection with others, right? I kind of want to like break a little bit of this down, or maybe, well, maybe she's going to get into it, but like we were just kind of like saying, the way we view ourselves, right, has
Yeah.
a lot to do with how and where we set boundaries with other people we're in relationship with, and what kind of
Exactly.
behavior we find acceptable or unacceptable. How we view ourselves has a lot to do with how we value ourselves, what kind of a person we see ourselves as.
Yep.
Do we see ourselves as somebody who is worthy and, you know,
I agree.
competent and confident? Do we see ourselves as somebody who maybe like doesn't feel very worthy, or maybe feels very like, you know, undeserving of other people's kindness or support?
Exactly. A lot of people feel that way.
Maybe some
More
of us have
people-
some mixed feelings on those things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody feels the same. And like I say, that's all based on that stuff. You know, who you were brought up with, what they taught you. If they
Right.
taught you that this stuff was
These early
good and that stuff was
interactions.
bad and that stuff was bad and this stuff was good and it was completely opposite,
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot of issues, you know?
Yeah, there's so much room for confusion in like young developing
Oh my
minds, right?
God.
Especially if there's not consistency in the message. Like say we have 2 caretakers who are saying different things to the kids. Like it can be really confusing and difficult to process for children.
I remember when I was a kid one time, and I don't know why I remember this. I don't remember a whole bunch. But I remember this one time, I'm not sure how old I was. I could have been between 3 and 5 maybe, I don't know. But I remember asking my grandmother, where does the moon go? How does it, you know, go round and all of a sudden it's half? And oh, she said it just disappears into the atmosphere.
Oh.
That's cool. You know, I thought, I believed that for the longest time, you know?
That's wild. When did
Mm-hmm.
you find out that that something else might have explained the moon phases?
I think it was pretty quickly in grade 1 or grade 2,
Okay.
you know, somewhere around there. Oh, damn. That's not what it was at all. And I was going around telling that to my brother. Hey, you know the moon just disappears like that.
Right, but she wanted to tell you something
Give
that
you
would,
something.
you know, satisfy your curiosity and maybe fill you with a bit of wonder and
Exactly, right?
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
that's a very cool thing just to think of that. Anyways, but yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, here, I'll get back to the video.
yeah.
So what are the 4 main styles of attachment? Well, the first is secure attachment. And this happens when our primary caregiver is responsible to our needs and we have a secure place to wander out and explore the world. But we know we have a place to turn to if things get scary or overwhelming. Our minds learn, in the simplest of terms, that you are trustworthy, I am trustworthy, and this bond, this attachment between us is trustworthy. The second attachment style is insecure ambivalent or anxious attachment. Now, this happens when our caregiver is inconsistent. Maybe they have an illness, or maybe they have other things going on, but the child's brain isn't 100% sure that they will be there when we need them. And as a result, we cling. We can panic when there's separation because we aren't 100% sure that that person's going to come back. We never develop a sense of security around ourselves or the bond between them. It just feels insecure. The third attachment style is insecure avoidant attachment. Now, this is formed when our primary caregiver doesn't respond to our needs with sensitivity or care. We feel alone in our needs and our upsets. And we learn that we're better at navigating our needs and emotions completely on our own, or that we are the only person we can trust when it comes to getting those needs met. We learn that we are trustworthy, but others are not. And attachment in general isn't helpful for us. And as you can see, this could lead to us isolating or engaging in what I call toxic independence, thinking that we're the only one that can do what we need to do. We learn that we are trustworthy, but others are not. And attachment in general isn't helpful for us. And as you can see, this could lead to us isolating or engaging in what I like to call toxic independence. The fourth style is disorganized attachment. And it's a little bit different from the others because the first 3 types of attachment that I've listed are, quote unquote, organized. And what that means is that our brains developed a coherent, even if it's unhelpful, script about how to navigate around our caregiver. For example, like I'll cling or I'll avoid. But with disorganized attachment, the child's brain can't figure out a good strategy. The caregiver shows atypical behavior. Maybe they're abusive or rejecting or manipulative, and we don't know whether to move toward them or away from them. And we can feel afraid and confused, and it can play out in a variety of different ways. We might be clingy one moment, then dismissive and rejecting the next. Those of us with disorganized attachment styles have a hard time trusting ourselves or others, and sometimes may long for attachment, and other times we can fear it altogether. So as we grow up, we carry with us from these attachment styles a view of ourselves, a view of others, and a view of attachment or connection. In a healthy relationship, these are 3 key things that we're going to need to feel secure. Think of it like there's you, then there's across the cavern, there's this other person, and between you, there is this tightrope. In some ways, you have to have a sense of security in each of these 3 pieces. You, number 1, are you secure? Do you have value and worth on your own? Are you worth wanting? Do you deserve love? If you leave a relationship, will you be okay? Now, the second is the other, right, across that cavern. Are other people able to be trusted? What are they doing over there? Are they stable and secure on their own? Able to share their needs, but not dependent on you? Are they safe to be trusted with your needs? And the third component is the attachment. Think of this like the wire stretched between you two. Is it secure? Is it stable? Are relationships themselves safe and stable? Or are they a thing you avoid? A thing you want or need? Are they a threat to your sense of self? Or are they necessary for your sense of self? Just take a second and think through those questions. Each attachment style has a different relationship with those 3 things.
I'm
Very.
curious. I want to hear how any of this is landing for
That's
for
really.
you, for chat.
that's some really cool info there. Like
Yeah.
getting pretty in depth, you know, and finding those little things. That's just so interesting to me.
So I know I've learned quite a bit about attachment theory, and quite a bit about my own as well. And I know I run anxious avoidance, so the one that's kind of like a mix between the two.
Okay.
Oh, what did I do? Not bad. I goofed up my keyboard. Just a little thingy. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted.
No worries.
My own attachment style is anxious avoidant, which means depending on like the situation or the circumstance, I
Can you trust that
behave
person?
either like in a more anxious behavior in which I like fawn and grow like even more attachment when I start to feel like a rejection, or I can feel like very avoidant in the like turn my back on like no, I'm good, you're crazy, like, and you know I need to like put up the walls for my own self, you know, and
Right.
so I don't do one or the other. I get like I go through kind of like the mix of both worlds, which makes it difficult to manage sometimes. Yeah.
I want to. I'm gonna go over this stuff again. I mean, like I said, we're gonna put together a little list
Yeah, let's.
where we're gonna have this stuff. We should do it in YouTube in the Discord.
Totally.
We'll make a channel just for that, because these mental health little ditties that we can find like that to help each other out, or that you can maybe go over with yourself and have a really good look at it and see if it helps you along, if it says who you might be, you know, gives you an idea of where you stand and maybe where you can work on yourself, right? Very important. I know that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find these little tools as well. I mean, we all need them, you know.
Neon says, yeah, we've shared some very intimate conversations about some of our past experiences, and some painful ones at that.
Yeah, and that's so hard to do, you know, to find people that you can do that with and trust, you know.
Something that really gets, I think, to kind of like the heart of connection with other people is having emotionally bonding moments and being able to like hold a safe place for a friend who is, you know, sharing something difficult.
Yeah.
Being able to like share that safety within each other, right?
Exactly. It's a gift.
It's a really powerful bonding experience.
Yeah, it's a gift, right?
And what I mean to say by that, Neon, is that you've got a friend for life in me, so
There you go.
call anytime, love.
Tristan
I
says
think,
it's okay
yeah.
to feel scared. I know in real life about life itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, damn right, man.
Life gets scary and overwhelming. There's a lot of expectations and pressures that are put on us. There's a lot of dangers out in the world, and there's a lot of things that we have to do and manage.
We should do it in YouTube, in the Discord.
Totally.
We'll make a channel just for that, because these mental health little ditties that we can find like that to help each other out, or that you can maybe go over with yourself and have a really good look at it and see if it helps you along, if it says who you might be, you know, gives you an idea of where you stand and maybe where you can work on yourself, right? Very important. I know that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find these little tools as well. I mean, we all need them, you know. That's some really great content right there.
Neon says, yeah, we've shared some very intimate conversations about some of our past experiences, and some painful ones at that.
Yeah, and that's so hard to do, you know, to find people that you can do that with and trust, you know.
Something that really gets, I think, to kind of like the heart of connection with other people is having emotionally bonding moments and being able to like hold a safe place for a friend who is, you know, sharing something difficult.
Yeah.
Being able to like share that safety within each other, right?
Exactly.
It's
It's a gift.
It's a really powerful bonding experience.
Yeah, it's a gift, right?
And what I mean to say by that, Neon, is that you've got a friend for life in me, so
There you go.
call anytime, love.
Trish
I
says
think,
it's okay
yeah.
to feel scared. I know in real life about life itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, damn right, man.
Life gets scary and overwhelming. There's a lot of expectations and pressures that are put on us. There's a lot of dangers out in the world, and there's a lot of things that we have to do and manage to try to keep up with all of it.
Yeah,
It
it
is
can
totally
be.
okay to feel scared or overwhelmed or frightened or anxious or nervous.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
you're allowed to
because
feel all of the things.
all of them, because they're all important. You know?
Emotions,
So
those
true.
feelings, they're all communicators. They communicate to us that something isn't right, right?
Exactly, right?
That there's a disturbance in the force, if you will.
I've been trying.
Exactly, right? If there's something wrong, sometimes you need something to let you know. You know, it's not easy to see through, but sometimes when you get people that can lay stuff out, and you know, you can kind of put it in your brain. Oh my God, that's what it is. You know, sometimes you can just
Sometimes I just need something to like click into place.
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like you know, then you know you're like, well, when I feel this way, I know better now that I don't have to. I can control this a little bit. You know, you can be in control because it's up to you.
We were talking about that, you know, on one of our previous ones, about how like we have a lot more agency when it comes to our emotions than sometimes we realize.
Exactly, right?
We do have more
Agency.
choice involved
Exactly.
than we acknowledge sometimes.
I completely agree. Amazing stuff. That's why it's always awesome to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
Have all of you awesome people chatting with us. And Neon says, and I like with
Good to
Bree,
see
I
you too,
missed
Hayes.
her when she was away, but I told her, go work on you, darling. Do what you need for yourself. Always know that I'm here. Encouragement is a beautiful thing as long as it holds trust and respect. Love you, Bree. Oh, there you go. That's what I'm talking about.
I love you too, Neon.
Listen while working, Hayes says.
Right.
Nice. So I want to show you this little
Yeah.
one here. It's called Your Brain.
There's a famous patient named Phineas Gage.
Phineas Gage was a railroad foreman who was working in Vermont, and he was tamping down a hole that had gunpowder in it. And the gunpowder ignited, sending the rod through his eye, up through his brain, taking out a big patch of his brain in the process. At first, people thought, well, this is a miracle. This man has been unscathed from this accident. He had memory, he had language, he had motor control. But of course, his friends noticed a difference.
His life fell apart. He had a hard time holding a job. He lost all of his friends, and he really just struggled.
His personality made him more fitful, irreverent, more profane. He was cursing a lot, lewd behavior, so he had sort of no filter. We now know that the parts of the brain that he sort of surgically excised were involved in emotion and control.
Over 100 years later, neuroscientists mapped the regions of his brain that were harmed in that horrific accident. Areas of his prefrontal cortex, including the brain's thermostat, were damaged, which might account for why he struggled socially. He couldn't regulate his emotions or process how other people might react to his behavior.
And that was the key moment, I think, in neuroscience history when people realized, oh, it's not just that motor, memory, language is in the brain. Your personality is up there. Your morality is up there. The things that make you, you are there.
I think we all kind of know intuitively that emotions impact our decisions. So what sort of extra information is this giving us?
In a lot of the scientific work that's been done on studying emotion decision-making, people have really focused on how emotions lead us to make worse decisions, maybe even irrational. And I actually don't think that's true. If you have a goal to not want to harm others and to do what's going to be in your self-interest, emotions are actually helping us make better decisions.
We are, in fact, the company that we keep because other people bring out parts of us and strengthen us in particular ways.
How you make decisions, how you behave, how you think about yourself. All of these processes we develop by mimicking and interacting and synchronizing with other brains.
One thing that we all share as humans is that social life and social contact is an incredibly important part of what our brain processes. Our brains are in detail influenced by every experience we have. Every moment, every sentence, every image changes your brain.
And certain experiences are so profound, so extreme, that they can impact brain biology from one generation to the next. Neuroscientist Bianca Jones-Marlin is studying how your ancestors' experiences might control how your brain is wired today.
We ask how trauma affects the brain, how trauma affects the body, and really how trauma affects generations. People in the world suffer from traumatic events, and these traumatic events aren't just a one-time change on their brain and their body. It actually continues for seemingly their lifetime.
Bianca's research is inspired by her upbringing.
My parents, my biological parents, were all still foster parents, so I had foster siblings and adopted siblings growing up. Only now, as a scientist, I realize that that motivates a lot of the questions that I ask. How do we understand what happens when kids are born into trauma and optimize what we do have for better generations?
One insight comes from an event during World War II.
At the end of World War II, the Netherlands were cut off from food by Nazi troops because they decided to protest through the country. And during this period of time, it created a man-made famine. There was starvation, death, there was trauma.
Not only did those who suffered during the famine experience health problems, but some of their children and even their grandchildren had metabolic issues.
So people began to ask, how does an experience of a parent, of a grandparent, change offspring?
Researchers began to discover that your environment and your experiences can change the way your genes are activated in your body and in your brain.
It's not like you get your genes and it's set in stone. They're constantly changing based on the environment.
To see this in action, Bianca studies mice.
We're able to map the whole genome of mice, target certain areas of that genetic code, and use them to answer the important questions in science.
So how could stress and trauma alter the biology of the mice's offspring? To find out, Bianca paired the smell of almond with an electric shock.
Because mice really navigate the world and rely heavily on the sense of smell, we use olfaction, pair it with the Lightfoot shock, and we observe changes in the brain and changes in behavior.
She noticed that something inside of the mice's noses changed.
We're able to look at the cells in the nose that only respond to almond, and what we observe is that after the Lightfoot shock and the presentation of almond coinciding, there are more cells in the nose that express the almond receptor. It's as if something in the milieu of the nose says, almond's important in this environment, we need more cells like you.
Mice grew more cells that responded to the smell of almond.
Each one of these green dots you see here, these are neurons. They're cells that can respond to the almond smell.
Procrastination isn't your fault.
These red dots are cells that were born after the presentation of odor and shock. And this cell right here, this red and green cell, is a cell that was born after the presentation of almond and shock that also responds to almond. This is the cell that we want to look at to see what information is inside, because we see more of these after the odor and shock pairing.
Remarkably, these changes were actually passed down to the next generation.
The offspring, the kids of the parents that were shocked with odor, were born with more cells that express the almond receptor, which means there's a memory that somehow is maintained in sperm, in egg, through implantation and represented in offspring. It is as if we are observing a change in evolution over the time span of one generation. And I just think that's fascinating. Because we as humans know how environment and how traumatic events change people. Just being able to take the science of that and being able to show that, we're just justifying what we already know as humans, what society has known for a long time, what individuals know. We just want to bring that to an undeniable truth.
Our brains are not static. We try to make sense of what's happening right now, but we also try to make sense of what happened a long time ago and to have like this grand picture of our life as a trajectory.
Our ability for conscious awareness. It's a magnificent ability, this ability to reflect on our own minds, but it also leads us astray.
I have memories, plans, I have these feelings of agency over my actions. But what the science itself is telling us is that these things aren't necessarily bound together. Different aspects of the self can be manipulated or even taken away altogether.
Your biology and the choices you make are all molded by your social interactions and even your family history. And yet we feel like we have control, like we have agency, right?
When she was talking about the their nasal receptors, the almond detecting receptors, right?
Yeah.
It brought up this interesting idea, right? That like when danger is present, our brain reallocates resources and like raises the resources to detect danger, to implement defenses.
True.
That makes a lot of sense that, you know, the light foot shock, right? Which indicates, you know, danger, don't go there sort of thing. Like
with the smell of the almond.
Hey, we want to be able to detect danger, and now that we recognize that this is danger, like.
But, you know, who would ever think that it just goes right
that,
into the DNA like that? Like, it's just, that's so cool. That, you know, it's evolution. Like, it's like she was saying, it's evolution. You're watching it happen right there. It's learning.
It's making new changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, so that has, like, it plays a role in, like, generational trauma, too.
Oh, my God, right? Hell yeah.
So, like, the things that even grandparents went through may be present in our nervous systems and, you know, in our brain mapping.
Right? But that's just
It's
so
interesting
amazing.
to think about those things.
Right? To think that, you know, traumas that might have happened in generations of your parents or grandparents or whatever all add
How
to
predisposed we are to things.
Right?
Right.
And how we, that's just
And
so,
to know, like, if, you know, if your parent or grandparent had, you know, significant challenges in their life growing up or something, like, we might be able to recognize some of those, I don't know, some of those traits that come out in us, perhaps.
Right? Exactly.
And being aware means that we are more able to address them, right?
I completely agree. Not your fault, Hayes. No, it wasn't your fault at all.
Never.
Hayes is trying to
everyone.
accept fault today for some reason. I don't know why. We're going to
Nobody's
talk you
at
out of
fault.
it before we're out of here. I tell you, Hayes.
Should we talk about the difference between fault and responsibility?
Yeah, we might need to do that, Bree.
We could. Would you like to?
Yeah.
We do that now.
I like
Fuck
that.
this shit. Fuck videos.
Maybe we'll,
Talk about fault and responsibility.
Hayes
They're
will
different.
understand a bit more.
Fault lives in the past. Fault is waggling a finger and placing blame. Responsibility looks to the future and how to address whatever the current situation is. So I wonder, Hazy. Fault or responsibility?
It takes 30 days to form a new habit, right, Neon? It's true.
Yeah.
You can do it. Like we were saying about them small little things, you know, the glass of water first thing in the morning while you write out a little bit of a journal. One sentence
Just
or
something tiny and
a few
beneficial.
words. Yeah.
Low
Create it.
energy, like low deviation from your normal routine. Just something small to implement can have big, big impact.
I agree. So well said. That's for
What about just
sure.
saying something nice about yourself once a day?
Yeah, even that, right?
Not forcing, like don't lie about it. Don't be like,
Yeah.
you're so cool if you don't believe it. But like find something about yourself that you like or enjoy or appreciate. Or just something that you're glad about for yourself and just say it out loud once a day.
Yeah.
I'll start.
You know? Okay.
I am appreciative of my body for allowing me to get outside and go for walks out in nature. That's something that I really enjoy and a place that I really like to be.
Right? Isn't it beautiful when you can have those moments in
Yeah.
nature like that? I completely agree. That's the same thing I like about gardening. And
Say thanks, body.
yeah, you know, it's about watching things grow and enjoying the environment for what it is, right?
Creep,
So,
I'm going to challenge you.
Sure.
Will you say something nice about yourself? Something that you like or appreciate or something that you're glad about yourself? Or something you feel good about, something you've done before?
I'm just appreciative and happy to still be here. You know, after what I was diagnosed with, that's just a really big thing to me right now. Still, because I didn't really believe. I didn't. I took the opposite road of thinking, okay, well, I got to take the worst path here, and I have to believe that it's not going to work, because that's the only way I can live with it, right? But it was beautiful to come out of that and to see how it was hard on me, but it was so easy coming out of that and realizing, no, I'm getting better. I'm going to beat this, right? So I don't think I did it wrong. I'm not saying I did it right, but
Can you thank your body for recovering for you?
well, my body and all of you awesome people who were my support pillar as well. Just being here, just being able to sing with other people, listening to other people sing, and how we treat each other with respect and love and admiration, and I really, all of that I'm very thankful for all of it. It's such an amazing thing that I can't even put my finger on. And I'm so lucky that because I don't know if I could have done it otherwise. Like without the Twitch community, how we all kind of hung out, and you just forget about everything.
Having our like social support system is a big deal.
Yeah, so huge, man. When I think about it, it's such a huge thing, and we have to acknowledge that, right? But yeah, that's my thing. Oh, love you too there, Neon. You take care of yourself as well, my dear,
Neon says she's been taking a 20-minute meditation every day. Great habit.
Ooh,
nice. Very nice.
So what kind of
Easy
meditation?
says Junior's been setting a good example, doing meditation, yoga, and workout routine every day. That's awesome.
I think that can really help people out a lot. And you put a few of those things in there, like you say, a workout or yoga, slow moving, stretching, and just,
Like Tai Chi is another one that's like that. Like a slow moving kind of yoga. I think sometimes people, I've heard from others that yoga can sometimes be a little bit like boring when you're just like in a pose for a while, and I totally relate. But things like Tai Chi, and I think there's another one called Qigong, but like similar kind of practices that are just slow moving like body movements, and so they're similar to yoga poses in that there's like a stretch and strength component in them, and it has a lot to do with like maintaining the focus and awareness of your breath and moving with the breath. But It can be a
Exactly.
little bit more
Yeah.
dynamic than just yoga by itself.
Yeah, very true, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. Whatever it takes. And like you say, I think that's a really, especially the meditation thing. It doesn't cost anything. You don't got to buy nothing extra. It's just
Right.
you can do.
And there's a lot of like YouTube content creators who do
Mhm.
guided meditations or do like mindfulness meditations, breath work also. There's so many breath work folks on YouTube. It's great. I love them. I
Oh,
think they're
yeah.
fantastic.
That's the way to go, right? Anything,
Yeah.
anything that people can come up with to help others, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's very important.
And
Don't
like
see
since
nothing.
there is so much variety, I think that really just kind of echoes the fact that like we're all looking for something a little bit different, right? And so if the
Mhm.
first thing you find is like, oh, that's not for me, like you can also keep looking because you might find something else that, you know,
Mhm.
catches your interest or something that just resonates with you, something that just fits, you know?
I completely agree because you don't know if you haven't heard of it or seen it or been around it and a lot of times
Yeah.
a lot of us avoid it. I know I was like that for a lot of my life, I have to say. And I don't think it's good. I think it's better for us to, you got to let stuff out. You have to let stuff out
I agree.
and
Even when it's
try and
painful,
heal
even when it
yourself.
hurts.
hmm As hard as that can be, you got to try and do it. It's one of those things, and you know I'm working on that, and that's why I appreciate everyone here for. You know, that's why we're here to be able to talk about that stuff. We need to talk about that.
You want to check out the feelings and needs chart? But so needs are here. The feelings are in this page, but these are all of our very, very human needs, right? And some of them get met like just by default in our life, right? And some of them are on the low side. Some of them might be chronically unmet.
hmm
And the chronically unmet needs that we have, those will lead us to impulsive behaviors. The behaviors that maybe later we're just like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to.
Mm.
The behaviors that make us feel like maybe we're a little bit out of control. Maybe not wild out of control, but does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Like sometimes when you go overboard and you notice you went overboard with something, and
Yeah.
it's kind of clear to you, like there's no way you can mistake it, and you know it could have went differently if you would have done something
Autonomy, choice, freedom, power in your world, like these things all strike me very much as like when these needs go unmet, when these autonomy needs go unmet, that's when like I can like clearly picture in my mind like imagine a kiddo having a temper tantrum, right? Because they don't get to choose anything or they don't get to have a say in whatever it is that they're feeling like they don't have any power in their world. You can imagine this kid just throwing a fit, right? Because they think maybe that's how they'll be able to get their way, perhaps. But whatever it is, it's protest behavior, right? Because
Yeah.
their needs are going unmet. As human beings, we all need autonomy. We all need a sense of choice. We need a sense of freedom. We need a sense of feeling like our decisions matter, right?
Yeah.
Even if the decision is, hey, pick out which pair of shoes you want to wear today, kiddo.
Yeah.
But if all of those choices are made for us, it can end in this like very protesting, you know, tantrum behavior, right? Does that make
It
sense?
makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah.
You know, not being able to be autonomous is, yeah, like someone ruling over every little thing you do and everything you wear and where you go and how
Yeah.
you do it and you know,
Exactly.
a helicopter mom or whatever you would want to call it, I guess.
Right. Just
Right.
very controlling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that could be really hard to deal with as
Yeah.
as a young
You see
adult.
how like
I
that
should
would
say.
be the impulse, right? The kid doesn't like plan on, you know, well, if mom does it again, I'm just going to throw my arms in the air and kick my feet to the ground. But it becomes this impulsive behavior, right? It's this snap sort of response reaction. And so in that moment, that's a response to trying to get his needs met, looking for help.
Yeah.
The more we interact with other people who are understanding of the challenges we're experiencing, like the stronger we all grow.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. I agree so much. Like, you know, we don't think of that, but information that you don't have is very important to get. I don't know how I can
important to
really say
seek
that.
out.
But, you know, not being a closed-minded person, listen to things. Listen to everything. Every side has something. You got to listen to all sides. You got to listen to everything. If you leave something out, you're missing
It
out.
also becomes important to like discern, right? Which sources of information resonate with you and which ones don't. If it doesn't make sense to you and it feels unnatural or like unweird, like just don't force yourself into doing something that like doesn't feel right.
Exactly.
When it comes to taking care of yourself and your mental health and stuff, like I think it is so important to take what resonates and leave the rest.
Yeah, just grab
Right.
what you
It's a
like out of
buffet.
it. Yeah.
It's a buffet and there are so many different influences to choose from. Hey, you might want to take from a little bit for over here and over here and over here and over here.
Exactly.
But there's plenty to leave behind also.
That's right.
And you don't need to take it all in at the same level of importance, right?
I agree.
I'm feeling relaxed and also very grateful.
Okay, if we could pick, we should probably pick 1, 2, 3, 4.
Whatever-
you know what I mean?
whatever
Like,
you're feeling.
One word in each of those brackets of the glad.
Just whatever you're feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go with
Don't
comfortable.
think too hard about it. Whatever comes to mind.
Comfortable, inspired, optimistic.
Nice.
I would throw all those out there.
I feel like I'm definitely feeling encouraged
That's good.
to do more emotional exploration.
And anyone out there, if you want to throw your feelings, don't be shy.
You guys would like to
tell us how
check
you
in,
feel.
please.
Yeah, check in with some feelings. We'd love to know what everyone's feeling today.
I could even find a better, there's a like feelings and needs wheel that some people like to use.
Oh.
Or I'm sorry, just the feelings wheel called.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's see if I can find a big one.
Neon says she's calm, joyful, and peaceful. Those are 3 beautiful words right there, too, that mesh together beautifully. Definitely well said. Ooh, okay.
There, can you see it all?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so how does this work? You don't
They're
spin
just
it or anything.
organized a little bit differently is all.
Yeah. How they kind of mesh into each other.
Yeah.
Surprised, happy, accepted, valued. Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
That's a fun, like, colorful way to see it.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Ooh, pretty colors. See, it worked on Neon. Calm, joyful, and peaceful. I
go.
love that. Those are wonderful things to feel on a Monday morning, or I guess afternoon. But
they are.
Yeah.
I like it. Wow. Look at all the emotions, especially like even on all of them. The anger one even, There's just so many in there.
There have been, I think, over the weekend, I felt a lot of. Here, I'll share a vulnerability.
Sure.
I felt a lot of confusion over this weekend, and I think that led me to feeling a bit stressed too, somewhat anxious, very insecure. Definitely felt very insecure.
Insecure.
There were times when I felt doubtful and somewhat rejected.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then there were moments when I was like cycling into feeling apathetic. Yes, this whole like, well, I don't even care anyway. Never mind. Out of control, that was part of it. Yeah. Unfocused, definitely.
Very
Had a bit of
interesting.
an emotional weekend.
Yeah, well, you know, that happens, right? Sometimes it happens,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes there's triggers, right?
Yeah.
That cause these things, and you know, I completely
Well,
understand.
there was a friend that I've gotten used to kind of talking to pretty often, and somebody who has been a pretty supportive friend in my life, and it's kind of a new friendship though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they said they like needed some space to kind of like just kind of, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what. They just said they were feeling a little bit overwhelmed and needed some space. And for me, I felt really confused, and I think it hit a trigger, and it definitely felt like it hit some.
Oh yeah, that can hurt
like
you
deep
too.
and old wounds. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. When you think you're doing well and you're trying to help, and you
It
see
felt
that
unexpected,
Yeah.
and I felt confused by it. But it also like, it was like kind of like scritching at this old wound that I just felt very cast aside in that moment, right? When I was told,
Right.
oh, well, I just need some time, like I'll talk to you later. For me, like to internalize that was like, uh-oh,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, that
Yeah.
can be a shock, especially when you truly know you're trying to help and do the best you can and trying to make something, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be
Well, it's a
not
friend
what
I
you
really
thought.
care for, and yeah, somebody who, you know, I feel like we've had a pretty like mutually supportive friendship, and so all of a sudden when I was feeling kind of like, you know, like I wanted to reach out, I was like, wait, what? Why? This isn't okay now all of a sudden?
Yeah,
That
that's
threw me
weird,
for
yeah.
like this unexpected loop, and then I think I started kind of like going through a whole lot of like feelings and you know, thoughts and wondering like, uh-oh, like, oh, this person doesn't have like room for their life in me, or maybe they just don't have like time for me, or maybe this is just like I'm not as cool as they thought I was, and pardon me, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah,
That's,
you see how
yeah,
like some
that's,
of these feelings can kind of like sneak in on us.
oh yeah, they could
Yeah.
trigger some weird stuff like that, right? You know, just
Yeah.
a little
They
rough
trigger
issue.
some old beliefs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've
Old
been there
beliefs
before.
about feeling like I'm not good enough, or you know,
Yeah. Right.
feeling like I'm too much.
Yeah, that's a scary.
And it's hard.
It's a scary thing to put yourself through, and sometimes it can really ruin some days.
It can be difficult to
delving.
try to like manage and navigate. And I know for my own self, when I have like a big emotional upheaval or stirring, like it's really difficult for me to focus my energy on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard for me to try to like read a book or, you know, paint something or try to even do dishes. I feel like my mind is just on this constant loop,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it makes it hard. But
Yep. I know. I used to be really, really bad with that at one time.
yeah.
That could keep me up all night. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, trying to solve it. You're always trying to solve
Right.
something. You know, and it's.
I'm curious, has anything helped you to like cope through some of those doubts or insecurities or feelings?
I think
I know for me, I tried to like go on some walks to sort of like process through some of
that's
the
a good one.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or gardening, just going out and just, you know. But
Yeah.
walking is one of the best ones, like you said, I think. You know, just going out, if you have an animal, bring the animal with you for a walk
Oh,
if you
totally.
can. You know.
One of the
and-
amazing things about walking, especially like walking around outdoors, is our eyes are constantly kind of like scanning the horizon, right? Or scanning the path, the walkway, whatever's in front of us.
Exactly.
And all of that back and forth, like lateral eye movement, like looking to see what's around. Not only does it, help our actual like eye focus to focus on things that are further away from us, but also the back and forth eye movement, like the video was showing earlier, all of that processing connection going back and forth to the left and the right sides of the brain. So they talked about, I think it was the emotional processing is in the right side, if I'm not mistaken. And so when we get through like some emotionally distressing events, or we have these worries on our mind, right, they're activating that the emotional processing, not informational, but emotional. And so by keeping these ideas on our mind when we go out for a walk outside and looking side to side and thinking on this, more information is able to pass back and forth through those pathways, right?
Yeah.
So the emotional side of things can actually start to process and filter over to the informational. So we can categorize things and start making more sense of them. They become a lot less distressing, and we're able to kind of navigate or see a path through.
That's a really good way of saying it. That's really good.
It is. It's like poor man's EMDR.
Yep.
If anybody's heard of EMDR therapy, it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, it's called. Basically, a therapist induces that same thing. You go over, like you and the therapist, you go over like a memory or something, a painful experience from the past. And the therapist will either use some kind of like visual device to indicate your eyes to move like back and forth, or they might use some kind of like tapping or neural beats, anything that's like activating both sides.
Right.
So it can be either, the visual going across, audio on, either side of the headphone, or it can be body tapping on left and right side.
Right.
But
interesting.
So by like intentionally activating both sides of the brain while trying to work through something difficult or distressing, we can open up new kind of processing paths and also help to get there.
Yeah.
Get our way through it.
Yeah, exactly. Change that emotional setting, because like you say, you have this set of emotions happening at this moment. The best way to get out of it is do something completely different, right? And probably the easiest one is going for a walk, because you're seeing,
and being
like you say,
in
you're
nature
looking.
is so good for us for so many reasons.
Oh my God.
But also put the sunblock on, because I've been getting sunburnt a bit lately.
Oh my God. I'm so lucky I haven't run into that yet.
Oh, you're so lucky. I get man, I swear, if I look out a window, I get sunburnt. No, I get that and the freckles.
Yeah, understandable. It can get burnt easy. What's going on there, Sprinkles? T-Tay.
What's up, Sprinks?
What's going on, dear?
I love you.
What's all new?
Come on in, let's get down and dirty.
Oh my.
We're just doing a little emotional check-in, and then I was sharing about my roller coaster of feelings over the weekend.
Does it feel better to let that out?
It did.
Hey?
It did.
Good.
It felt really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. You know?
I feel like for the entire weekend, I was definitely like keeping it in. I did plenty of like self-isolation and a whole lot of like letting the thoughts go into tornado town in my head. And waking up this morning, I felt a lot more clarity and feeling like
That's awesome. You know,
I can shake
you
off
work
some
your
of
way through
this
it.
shame of the self-judgment, and I think I can acknowledge that, a lot of this was like it was a trigger response. It was a trauma response.
Yeah, it is.
Because I struggle with relationships. I struggle with attachment, and I struggle a ton when I start to feel like I like can confide in somebody, or when somebody feels like a safe support figure for me.
Right.
Like if that dynamic suddenly changes without warning, it can feel scary.
Oh my God, yeah. I
And
completely understand.
and that's what I went through.
Yeah. You know,
It
and
can
no
feel
one,
scary when there's actually and absolutely no danger present, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we can't always control our emotions completely like that. Sometimes, like you said, we have to work through them, right? They're going to happen.
Yeah.
We got to acknowledge them. Like you say, stare them down, work your way through. Maybe you need to talk to someone else. Maybe you don't need to talk to nobody. Maybe just doing those little isolation things or whatever you need to do. That like you said, take those little things.
Whatever we need to do to feel the way through it. Because emotions, they need to be heard, they need to be seen, and they need to be felt.
Even if it's
Let's
for
do
a moment
both.
or a time, you know.
I think helping ourselves is probably the biggest way that we can help other people.
I agree.
Figuring out what works for us means that like we can also share some of that information for others.
That's right. It's very important
Right.
to do that for others, right? You know.
Like the airplane mask thing, like we've got to put our own oxygen on before we can help other people.
Right? Yeah, we do have to help. If we don't have anything good happening, we're probably not going to provide anything good either, right? Because you got to have that information, right? And that's why it's always good
We
to
need
talk
to
about.
create like the safety for ourselves before we can create safety for other people. I think sometimes, most of the time, probably all the time.
Oh, Neon's got a cool comment for you there.
Neon says, "I miss the random sea songs we would make up." Oh my goodness, we would have some fun times on the high seas. I will tell you, I still sing random weird little ditties, but it's mostly about like my dishes and cats.
Hi ho, Maderio.
My favorite little ditty that happens twice a day with the kitties is when it's breakfast time and dinner time for them. This is my one little like Christmas song that makes it into my life, and it goes instead of it's Christmas time in the city, I tell them it's breakfast time for my kitties.
Oh, breakfast time.
I do
for the
that, and then for dinner
kitties.
again also. That's how they know it's food time.
Oh my.
My little buddies.
Well, that's the thing, you know. They get used to that. If you sing every time you sing that, they'll know. They'll start coming, right?
They sure do.
food
And
time.
so, no, my kitties, meow, meow, meow.
Kitty cats. No,
Kitties.
kitty cats. Kitty cats, Twisty. Get out of your brain now.
Well, that ended up being part of how I was able to kind of like get them acclimated to going outdoors. Was I started taking them outside in the morning before breakfast time.
Okay.
And so when it was time for them to come back in, I'd be like, "All right, guys, it's breakfast time for my kitties."
So-
and then they would come back up to the door because they know, "Oh, breakfast time. This is what we love." And so it wasn't difficult to get them like to transition from fun outdoor playtime into back indoors.
The food. Yeah. They'd come back because
and
they
made
knew
for a
right
natural
away.
transition.
Very smart.
Yeah.
See?
And now they're just great at it. And I can just tell them to come on in, and they're like, "Okay, we got it."
Exactly. Right?
It was either they were getting breakfast or they got like a treat when they would come inside. And
Well, yeah.
sometimes they still do.
That's a good idea. I wish I
Yeah.
would train my dog a bit more like that. My dog seems to have trained me.
Oh yeah.
You know.
They'll do it. They'll do that.
Oh, yeah.
They're good at it.
Dang. Neon says,
hammock
I say the same thing to my kitties in the morning. It's hammock time for
my
kitties.
kitties.
It's hammock time
Oh, Lordy.
for kitties.
Oh Lord. My goodness. I love it.
My.
You guys are too much.
Right? Oh my. Oh my.
Oh.
Good times though. I love it.
Well, I am going to have to like wind it down and wrap up in a few
Mhm.
minutes, but do you want to how about we take like a 1 minute, or not a 1 minute, but like a one song kind of like wiggle it out, shake it out, deep breath dance break?
That's a good idea.
You want
Yeah.
to pick a song, or maybe chat? Do you want to throw in
Yeah. What would be a good
a
tune
request maybe?
to do a stretch to? Skinny
Skinny
Love.
Love by Bon Iver.
Oh, okay, let's go with
Yeah?
that. Why not?
I don't think I've heard this one.
And a good stretch in. I want to thank all you awesome people out there for hanging out with us. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care of each other out there. Much love to you all. Bree?
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for the conversation and for participating, and I hope you all have just a lovely cerebral day.
Awesome.
Happy Monday, all.
Take care, everybody. Much love to you all.